You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Cozias, only on LA Talk Radio.
All right, guys, we are back, and it's not even back. It's me. I'm back, and it's going to be a little bit of an interesting episode for a few reasons. I'm going to give it a minute because we're, in addition to streaming on LA Talk Radio, which is where you're at, and I'm your host, Katerina, and if you tune in, you know that. We are also Facebook Living lately, so I want to give it just a second for some of our Facebook Livers to have an opportunity to pop in, but it's going to be a fun episode because today we're talking midlife breakdowns and whether or not you're living into should. And when I say that, of course you mean someone else's should, right? And it's interesting because there's so many places I want to take this show today, and the funny thing is that I'm sort of I'm wavering between letting it flow and going back to my like super perfectly prepared notes because damn it, we live in a place of perpetual perfection, and that is what tends to lead most people to that breakdown. And I'm going to get a little bit raw and real about what happened to me this last little while. A few of you have been, tapping in saying, where was the show in August? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. For those of you that do follow, we took a little bit of a hiatus. And that was largely driven because I needed a hiatus. And yeah, that's a little bit difficult to admit, but I'm going to admit it. You're tuning in. If you're tuning in, you're tuning in to LA40 here on LA Talk Radio, where we delve into all things life after 40. And and part of the reason I was excited to join the show was because I was heading into my 40s. And, of course, I thought, okay, yeah, I'm ready for this. Super ready. Let's go. And then I had a meltdown last month. Want to call it a midlife crisis, want to call it a nervous breakdown, want to call it I like to call it a life reframe. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Real quick, want to remind you that this is a dial-in show, 818-570-5085, 818-570-5085. If you are in your 40s or 50s and you tell me you have never had a meltdown, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Bullshit on that. And maybe you're even 30 and are having a meltdown. Regardless, there's this stigma around having a meltdown, right? We're not supposed to melt down. We're not supposed to not be perfect. And my goal with today's episode is really to help expand the thinking around what perfection is and why so many of us are incessantly driven to try to paint that perfect picture. And so I had a bunch of notes prepared, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this and this and this. And actually, the reason I'm sitting here by myself today, I'm going to back it up for just a minute, is because I had 3 guests in the last 2 weeks cancel on me for today's show. One of them got called into a legal deposition. Another one had to go away for her kids' camping trip that she had volunteered to be the mom at. And then the third person, I don't know what happened, but they couldn't make it. So I was panicking last night, going, what am I going to do, right? I got to find a guest. Who can I call? I'm calling random people. Can you be on the show with a random topic? And then I just was like, what are you doing, right? What are you doing again? Katerina, just take a breath. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us is we don't take a minute to take a breath. So yes, do I have a whole bunch of things here that I want to talk about with respect to breakdowns and midlife crises and perfection? And yes, I do, but I don't want to go into it that structured. I want to just kind of let it free flow. And again, I kind of would love to have this be a dialogue. So if you're out there and you've had a little bit of this midlife meltdown, definitely call in because I'd love to chit chat with you about it. The proverbial question that comes into play, and this is the thing I think that sort of tipped me last month. For those of you that know me, my life arguably has been pretty damn great. Perfect family, perfect lifestyle, perfect, parents, perfect body, perfect. Everything in my life has been perfect. And yet, I still had a meltdown last month. I'm going to go into that in just a minute, but I do have a caller, so I'm super excited about that. All right. Hello. You're tuning into LA40. Katerina here.
Hello, Katerina. This is Casey.
Casey, how are you? Thank you for dialing into the show. I appreciate you dialing in, Casey, because we are talking about midlife meltdowns and what the heck happens when you're 40 and how you kind of look at your life and go, am I really where I'm supposed to be? So what's your thought on that?
Well, I as a male, I'm okay saying that. I'm 47, and I've experienced this midlife crisis meltdown. I've experienced it. I think you talk about perfection. I think perfection is something that we put over our heads, something that we grow up saying we should be doing this at a certain age, doing that at a certain age, you should accomplish this by a certain age, and then when you don't reach those expectations, you tend to be hard on yourself, and you tend to seem, to want to say, I'm not living right. But what I've come to learn from my kids, they're the ones that point out to me like, Pop, you're good. You did everything right. It had to be my kids the ones to tell me I was okay, because I had some of the expectations on myself. I went to college. I have 2 degrees, and then I find myself doing something I never thought I'd be doing right now. And then my kids, one's 28, one's 22, and they're both like, look, Pop, we're fine. Yeah. One's a nurse, one owns a studio, and they're like, we couldn't do this without you. We would never be these people without you. And what I'm basically had to say, I had to listen to them to reassure myself that I was okay.
And I love that you're sharing that, because you know what happens. Sorry, I'll let you continue.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what happens, Casey? It's exactly what you just said, right? Society has these check boxes. And it says to us from an early age, you got to hit these. You got to get the education. You've got to get the job. You've got to get the job with the pension plan. Then you've got to buy the house. Then you've got to buy the dog. Then you've got to, and some of us go through that. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the problem is that we start the self-judgment. And society, again, what gets me really passionate, really crazy is the fact that it's built to make us feel like we're living wrong. Because if we're living wrong, then we can buy that car, then we can go get that Prozac, then we can go take that vacation, right? So the way our society is built, Casey, it's built to make us feel like we're doing something incorrect. And that's just not the case, right?
No, it's not. I mean, every day, I think you have to have short-term goals sometimes, meaning, take it day by day, week by week, month by month. You can't just say, okay, I should be here at this certain point. I think if you have food, clothing, and shelter, I know it's that. I don't say it's that basic, but you should make it that basic. If you have these little necessities that make life good, things come along a lot easier. Because sometimes we say, I need this car to be happy. Okay, then you get the car, then you find something else like, I need to have this woman to be happy. Right. And then you're like, okay, I have her. Oh, you know what? I should have this house. And then you're just like, it's just spiraling out of control. It never ends.
And you know what happens when it's spiraling and getting out of control, Casey, is you're going deeper and deeper and deeper into debt, trying to keep up with the Joneses. And you know what kills me is back in the day, let's take it back 50 years, right? Back in the day, you had your community. And you had the neighbor down the street that may have had a little bit of a better car. You had the neighbor, maybe 20 miles away, your boss or whatnot. But now we're literally living in a place where everything is flying into our social media feed, right? We can't even get up in the morning without looking at Facebook. And we're looking at people, that are making $100 million like the Kardashians, and we're comparing ourselves to that. How are you not going to go crazy or go into debt? And then you wake up and you're going, how did I get into debt? It's crazy.
Katerina, stop looking at your social media.
Yes.
I had to cut that out. I found myself a slave to instant satisfaction, instant approval, instant disapproval. I would post things on my Twitter because I have a lot of friends. Through my walk of life, I know a lot of people, and a lot of people think I'm charming, funny, whatever.
I think you sound charming and funny to me, Casey.
I found myself trying to feed them. I found myself trying to entertain them, and it wasn't working. Yeah. So now, if I do something, I don't even check it, or I don't even care anymore. Social media is something that brings us down.
How much energy? Absolutely. Casey, I got a call coming in. I thank you so much for dialing in, for your candor,
and
for
you have a good
and for
day.
your
You're
support.
Awesome. Don't worry, you're doing great.
Awesome. Thanks, Case. Take care. All right. Great conversation. Hi there, you're tuning in to LA40. We are talking meltdowns today. Who's this?
This is Steve Greenberg from Miami, Florida.
Steve Greenberg from Miami. How's the hurricane, Steve? Before we get into meltdowns, how's the home? How's the beach?
Well, talking about meltdowns,
yes,
I'm living surrounded by people who are like on the verge of a nervous breakdown because even though we were somewhat spared because the storm did go a little bit more west and hit more of the west coast of Florida, no power, no air conditioning, no cable, no internet. You talked about being off social media. We now know what that's really like.
Wow.
And it's been awful. It's been really awful. And I can tell you, people's tempers are all like ramped up. I have many examples of seeing people just losing it because it's a tough situation. I hope things go back to normal soon.
I hope so.
And they're heading that way. But it's definitely you can feel it in the air. You can feel it in the air.
And do you think, Steve, that's because people just are, like, they're out of their comfort zone, right? Is that what's driving it for you? Or not for you, but is that what you're seeing? Or what do you account it to?
I lived through Hurricane Andrew
as
well in Miami. And what I was most amazed with is that the difference between a first world country and a third world country is very few. You take away electricity and a couple of days, and you're a third world country. It gets, you don't have ice in your drinks. And it isn't just comfort. These are things that kind of keep us, centered. When that's lost and you fear for your security and you don't have your home security system working in your home anymore and you're worried about a break-in and police aren't everywhere, you become a third world country very quickly. I saw that before the National Guard showed up 3 days after Andrew. It was scary being there. I mean, I feared for my life. That isn't the case with this storm. I think, first of all, it wasn't as bad, and I think they're getting it up and running, and there's a lot of police presence, and I just think it's coming together a little bit faster. But, we take civility for granted, but it goes away very quickly. We're wild animals, just
by our base nature.
With a blink of a second, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing too, Steve, is exactly to your point, right? There's classic Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You got to have food, you got to have shelter, and when you take that as a given, then you can start to load up on, okay, now I'd like my niceties. And when you don't have your niceties, you kind of play in that world of stress. But if you pull it back and the raw basics are missing, then guess what? You're back to survival mode, right? You're not worried about, hey, my car got dinged in the parking lot. You're worried about, am I going to have electricity in order to feed my kids who are 2 years old and we've been stuck in this high rise for 4 days? My goodness. Now,
I think people assume when you're living in some place which is in the course of a disaster, you take everything for granted and you take all these things as this is just part of the entitlement of being alive and human in this time period. But the truth of the matter is that when it goes away, we are, I think we've lost some of those survival skills and we've replaced them with anger, hostility. I mean, we don't know what to do, so all we do is get frustrated and angry. And it's kind of a slightly sad commentary on the state of humans in 2017.
Now, with humans in 2017, we've got, the material, practical things that we just talked about. But those emotions that you went through, right, anger, fear, judgment, anxiety, those are human emotions that, can come into play at any time. So I want to ask you the question, aside from the physical, realistic, I went through a hurricane last week, have you felt those in terms of your life's path?
Say that last part again. I'm sorry.
Have you, over the course of your life, experienced times where you're feeling anger and hurt and frustration with self?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's hard to grow up and grow older without feeling everything. I mean, you think you might get spared it, but you're going to feel everything from tragedy to pain to grief to frustration. That's just part of the journey. So absolutely. And very often it's all within us. I mean, nothing's changed on the outside, but you can be slighted by something that wasn't really meant to be a slight, and also you take it very personally.
Sure.
You feel you haven't achieved what you should have achieved by this point in your life. The life that you have isn't the one that you pictured when you were 14 years old. It's something completely different. It may be better or it may be worse. But I think, I think that's all part of the life journey. At least that's how I see it.
Sure. Now, and that's exactly it. And again, I kind of started the episode saying you sort of get to a point in middle age, right? Middle age, whatever that means these days. But you get to a point in your life where you look back and you think, okay, that's how I lived the first half. How do I want to live the second half? am I where I thought I was going to be? Now, if the answer to that is no, what do you do? What do you do to move into a place where you're living more authentically into who you know you're supposed to be, but you don't know how you're supposed to get there? And even if you know how you're supposed to get there, you're shit scared of going there. So, any personal examples from you that kind of pushed you through some of those?
I've changed my career several times.
Okay.
And really, I always feel like I pay all my dues, I hit like the easy street side, then I trash it, and I start all over again. So I started, just having whatever jobs. I went to college and grad school and went on and became a dentist, practiced for 4 years. Then I threw that away and became a TV news reporter. Did that for like 12 years, and then I tossed that away to do features on a different kind of television venue. And then I changed that and I wrote a book and started a different part of my career and started helping inventors bringing their products to market. So, and by the way, all those inventors I deal with are all doing life changes too, because they start out as a teacher or a doctor or a custodian or whatever they are. Then they invent a product, and now they not only invented a product, but they reinvent their lives, and they take a different path. So it's possible, and I think something kind of healthy about it. It's if you have the freedom to be able to do it, you should do it. Obviously, if you have 6 kids and a lot of mouths and eyes looking up to you, depending on you, you have to take the safe choices more often. But if you don't have that, then I guess you can take a few more gambles because it's just you or just you and a partner. So I think those are factors in all that. But I do think changing what you're doing and changing it up is healthy, and it's kind of good for your brain too, because after you do something a while, it becomes second nature. You kind of have the muscles that work it. But when you reinvent yourself, you got to use new muscles. You got to rethink it. You got to come up with a new solution. So that kind of keeps your brain, pliable, because you keep changing the rules a little bit. So I think that's a good thing.
Totally.
And I've done it in my own life, and I don't regret it at all.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. And going back to making a change, it's not easy because you're moving into territory that you've never been in before, right? So the natural reaction is almost it's part of your brain that says, hey, whoa, there might be danger there because you've never gone down that path, so maybe you shouldn't go there. And it kind of makes you pull back. And it's only when you can kind of say, okay, I recognize I don't know what I'm doing, but how could I possibly know? Because I've never done it before, right? So there is a leap of faith. And it kind of goes back to what our last caller, Casey, was saying. You're allowed to shift gears, and your life is allowed to move in a direction that maybe you weren't anticipating. But you got to get to a place where you're happy with the decisions you've made and come to a place of contentment. And if you're not, then don't sit and complain about it. Do something to push through, right? So kudos on you that you've changed so many times.
And I think that's such great advice. And I think fear of the unknown, fear is hardwired into us to kind of protect us. So I think you should respect fear. That's a smart thing. But at the same token, you got to look at the options, and again, how many people are depending on you, and then make the leap, because that's what makes life exciting is taking on a new challenge. And it usually means more work. When I changed from one career to another, like I said, I paid my dues, I did all the hard work. Once I got to the easy street, I dumped it and went and started a new career and had to learn that one and had to go through that learning curve. And then kind of once I hit the learning curve and got the top of it, then I changed it again, because it's that learning curve that really is working those brain muscles the way you want to work them. So I think there's something exciting about that. And I think
I think there's something that is evolutionary about that, because as human beings, I genuinely believe we are meant to evolve, we are meant to grow, we are meant to expand, and it's through our expansion that the rest of the world expands, right? If you didn't have an idea to make an invention and go through the difficulty of building that and failing 100 times before it was perfected, you wouldn't have that gift to offer to the world, right?
I was just reading an article. Actually, I helped write an article about Dyson, the vacuum cleaner guy.
Oh, yeah.
He made, with his own money, just he and his wife, made 5,000 prototypes before they got to the one that became the vacuum cleaner we know. That means, think of all the money that went into each one. Not just 10, not just 20, not just 100. He went through 5,000 different tweakings of that vacuum cleaner before he came out with that, the one that made him, the fame and fortune. He's worth billions now. But
and again,
that's an amazing number of prototypes. And think how much it costs to fund them, to test them. There's so much that goes into making 5,000 prototypes.
Think about the mental anguish every time you failed, right? And how many people quit?
Look at your wife saying, like, you're spending
what are you doing?
the money that our retirement money, and you're spending it on this. You have to put up with all of that. And I think in his case, she was very supportive, but not always the case. Mm-hmm. And to go through 5,000 prototypes, that's a lot. I mean, that's really where I could see so many other people would just say, okay, I'm done. I did this 1,500 times. That's enough. And he still had another 3,500 ahead of him. It's pretty amazing.
Part of what led to, and I'm joking around a little bit, but I'm not, Steve. I had a little bit of a breakdown about 3-4 weeks ago. And I've been pushing this new, similar to you, right? I had a really fabulous life in yachts and jets, and everything was perfect. But my brain was on status quo. And I was fine, and I was complacent, and everything was okay. And I just was like, there has to be more than this, right? What is really calling to me? And moving into this sphere of media and television has always been a dream of mine. It's been a dream of mine for 20 years. And I just thought, if I don't do it, I'm going to regret it. I don't want to be 90 and look in the mirror and think you were too chicken shit to go there. The thing is, I rearranged my entire life, Steve. I come out to Hollywood. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth because, of course, I don't want to give up the old life, right? So half a foot is in one part of the country. The other half is in the other half of the country. And so then I'm overloading myself with, anxiety and stress and trying to do everything. And then I get to a point, what happened to me this summer is I expected it to move quicker than it was moving. And because it wasn't, similar to Casey's call just before you start loading on the self-judgment without recognizing that you're the one driving this train and you're choosing to go into that uncomfortable zone. But it's when you get into the uncomfortable zone that things start to shift. And for whatever reason, society tells us don't be uncomfortable. So we think we're doing it wrong. But we have to get uncomfortable to grow. So it's just, drives me nuts.
And, also you have to take some time and enjoy the journey. Just because, if this journey doesn't make you the next co-host on the Today Show, that doesn't mean it wasn't a successful journey. I mean, you still are talking on media, you're still doing what you're doing, and it will lead to other things. Sure. But where it ends up taking you, you probably don't know it. It may not be exactly where you think it will, but you still have to enjoy the ride. It isn't only about the goal. It's about enjoying the process of getting to the goal. Because the goal is out there. Once you get there, it's kind of done. You want to enjoy the process, and you want to enjoy this experience. Like right now, you and I are talking. We have to enjoy this moment because that's the moment we have right now. And I think that's important too. It can't only be about the goal.
Right. Totally. And to your point, Steve, because the goal was killing me, I took a couple weeks off and I hung out in Malibu and I sat at the beach and I thought, you know what, it's summertime. I'm going to enjoy being on this coast. I haven't done this. I'm going to just flake out. And I feel so recharged. We have to give ourselves time to recharge.
Definitely.
Steve, I thank you so much for calling in. You've been fabulous. Thank you for sharing your story. All right. Cheers. Bye-bye now. So, both of these callers I appreciate because, when you get a little bit older, you get some perspective. And my biggest thing, I guess, that I want to share today is, for as much as, change is difficult, I think I'm really here to kind of talk to you today about don't be afraid of change. Because the change is going to come with good and it's going to come with bad. And I'm saying that because I lived both of those recently. Every time I've jumped, and I've jumped twice, major jumps in my life, where there was no parachute. I didn't know where I was going. You just kind of take a leap of faith and you jump. And both times, my life got exponentially better. And I genuinely believe with the jump that I've taken recently from working in, the world of boats and planes and moving into a world of entertainment, it actually most of the time is exponentially better. But again, going back to that, the terror barrier is what I call it. So for those of you just tuning in, we're talking a little bit about having a meltdown, having a midlife crisis, having what I like to call a life reframe. And when you have that, not to beat yourself up because of it. I'm going to talk to you about the terror barrier for a minute, but then I want to go back to perfection. If you have any experience with just getting to a place of discomfort in your life, I'd love for you to call in and just chit-chat with us about it. But the terror barrier, basically, it's psychologically built to help us not get hurt. Okay, fine. But the problem is a lot of us, again, going back to what Casey was saying, right? You have what I like to call society's white picket fence norms driver, the funnel that's making us go to the white picket fences. And part of what led to my little, my little crash last month is I started comparing myself to other people, right? And we know this logically. Number one, no, don't do that. No, bad. But what I did is, I looked around, and instead of focusing on all the great stuff in my life, and we all hear about gratitude and be thankful and blah, 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 when you're in that downward spiral, you're not listening to gratitude. You're in that downward spiral. And I chose, for whatever reason, to start looking at all the things I hadn't accomplished at 40 and a half, the summer of my 40th year. And I started looking at the fact that when I was 25, and when I was in high school, I had a best friend. And shout out to her. She knows who she is. I'm not going to go into names right here. But at 25 and a half, our lives started to diverge. She met a guy, she got engaged, and then she got married, and then a few years later they had a baby, and then a few years after that they had baby number 2, and then a few years after that they got divorced. And I'm sitting here looking at this going, oh my God, I am 5 steps behind, like 5 steps behind. What in the heck have I done for 40 years? Where's my husband? Where are my kids? Where's my divorce? Where's my half a dog? I'm looking around going, where are these things? And I allowed myself to just start feeling like shit, to be really honest with you. And what I didn't do was recognize the difference in the life, her 15 years from 25 to 40 versus my 15 years from 25 to 40. And I guarantee you, there have been times that she has looked at my life during her 15 years of kids throwing up, of husband not coming home, of whatever her reality was, and looking at my pretty pictures that I was posting of, hey, this is me in Monaco. Hey, this is me at the beach. Hey, this is me with a prince. And probably wanting to kill herself. Just the way I was sitting there a couple weeks ago going, what have I done? What have I accomplished? What am I doing in life? And it's just killing the self beat up. We really have to do that, and we really have to recognize again. And I found a really amazing quote. I'm not good with quotes, but I'm going to read it here, guys, because I thought it was really poignant. And it basically says, for a star to be born, there's one thing that has to happen. A gaseous nebula must collapse. So collapse and crumble and know that you've got to get down to that place of just really stripping out what is not working. And half the time, it's got nothing to do with your physical environment. Half the time, it's got to do with your mental frame of mind. And it says, don't worry about the destruction, because it's through the destruction that the rebirth happens. And I can tell you from having taken a couple weeks off and having looked at my life and having looked at all of the amazing things that I have done, and I don't want to make this all about me, but I'm just sharing that we have a choice to make when we wake up in the morning. And we can look at the good side and we can look at the bad side. And it's 100% our choice, people. It's 100% our choice. And, I had read something else and it said, we are all self-made, but only the successful will admit that. Like, right? If you're happy with the car in your garage, good for you. You're doing something that's working for you. If you're not, guess what? You're doing something that isn't. That's somehow a reflection on what you have been putting out there. And I'm not saying you need to have a car or no car. Maybe you don't even want a car. Maybe you don't have a car. I'm not saying it has to do with the physical material aspect, but it has to do with, are you happy with whatever it is that's in front of you? And I think that's the goal. So when I started sort of patting myself on the back and saying, you know what, you had the courage to leave your hometown 12 years ago and venture to Europe for a new life, and it has been amazing. And you had the courage a year and a half ago to leave your amazing life and venture into a new chapter. And you have the courage now. I'm going to throw it out there. Probably shouldn't because it's not out yet. But I've finished my book. I have co-authored it with a really lovely human being. I'm going to shout out to Danielle Martin. I'm 40 years old and I just finished my first book. That's an accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not divorced. And not that divorce is bad, but at least it's like, why am I trying to compare myself to some people when I'm on a different path, right? So we just got to go through that. Limiting beliefs. God, you guys, I want to get into this one in a minute, but we got a caller coming in, so hang tight. Hi there, you're tuning into LA40. We're talking midlife stuff. Who's this?
This is Lois.
Hi.
Lois Whitman-Hess.
Lois Whitman-Hess. Thank you so much for calling in.
I just had to call in because I was listening. You had some really great advice there. And I'm sorry that you had to go through what you went through, but that's part of life. But, I'm much older than you.
Okay.
And, it's always so easy for someone that's been through someone else to lecture someone else about life.
Okay.
But what I've learned, and it was a tough thing to learn also, is that you can't put a timeline on life. It does not work. I mean, someone as gorgeous and intelligent as you, I mean, your meltdown was a privilege, but I've watched other people at your age that thought they had everything. They were married, children, huge house, dogs, cats, all of the trimmings, and yet things fell apart through divorce, death, illness. All I could say is thank God for your own little problems. And I don't mean to put down little, but for anyone, I mean, it's very difficult at your age because you think that there should be goals like that, and it's good to have them. But when you look at everyone else and you see, for yourself how far you've come and the exciting journey you're having, your calling guy Steve really hit some buttons there by telling you about his career. So, I mean, my only message is that we all kind of think that there should be, goals and deadlines, but there is no such thing in life, and people have to reinvent themselves or start a life all over again. And, you're on a road that most of us would love to be on. So just know that, we're envious of you. And, if you have to have like a little meltdown once in a while as a reality check, then that's okay.
I thank you for that. And, it's funny, Lois, because I'm going to throw this out there for some people. Steve hit the nail on the head with the way he started his call, which was, hey, guess what? There's a ton of people in the world right now that have nothing to eat. They have no electricity. They have no, and he was talking about Miami, we lost our Wi-Fi. We're not even going to the places that are really suffering. So, yes,
right.
We got to put that in perspective. But it's tough to do when really, if at the end of the day, we are living the life that 1% of the people around the world have. So we put ourselves in our own little spiral, right? And I think we have to take a step back and remember that it's not necessarily about us, right? What are we coming to the table to offer the rest of the world? What value are you bringing to your family, to your friends, to society as a whole? And when you step back and you think of what am I doing that's of value, or what can I do that can be of value that I'm not doing because I'm watching Netflix, you ask yourself, how do I get my head out of my ass? And you have to get your head out of your ass or you're not going to be happy.
No, I disagree a little bit. First
okay.
of all, one thing that Steve said that I would recommend everyone who feels like you that's listening in or watching you, I think that you have to love the journey. If you don't love the journey, then do something else, because the journey is really getting there is even much better than the goal. Just think about, I mean, I've seen this because I've lived a longer life than you, but just how many people are on top, they have everything going for themselves, and then there is a major collapse of some sort. Jay Leno lost the love of his life, The Tonight Show. Kathy Griffin got hit in the head because she, came up with the wrong comedy routine. How many people are cut off because, somebody's prettier or better for the second? What goes around comes around. You are really, you'll know years from now that this was the time of your life. So, I mean, I'm trying to bully you into enjoying it, because I don't know which way to, I don't know how to do it any better, but this is the joy. This is the joy of doing it, because nobody, and every successful person that's really honest will tell you that there's a time limit on it, and really getting there, Jerry Seinfeld will tell you when he went out to the clubs and he hung out with the guys at night and they had, milk and cookies or whatever they did, that was the most enjoyable time. You have nothing. Freedom, is like nothing else to lose. So I didn't say that quite correctly, but freedom, something like nothing left to lose, the song. So the point is that this is a time where you've got the freedom to do whatever you want. And later on, when there's other life challenges, you're not going to have this time. You're going to think, oh, my God, I wasted negative energy at this time when it really didn't exist. Yeah. So I know it's hard to tell from one person.
Well, you know what I want to do, just I want to frame it for the audience, just so that they can get a perspective from where your perspective is coming from. So I'm 40. How old are you, Lois?
I'm not telling you.
Okay. But you're older than me.
Double
a woman never tells. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But the point is that you have lived a longer life, and I appreciate you trying to make me aware of it, And it's funny because I spoke at a college the other day. I was there as a guest, and I was up speaking to a bunch of kids that were 20, 22 years old, and they were getting ready to, go into, I think, their fourth year of university. And my being older than them by 20 years, I had a perspective on where they're at. And the advice that I gave them from where I stood was, don't put so much pressure on yourself to get it right today, because trust me, it's going to change. And the perspective that you're giving me is, don't discount the experiences you're having, because they're actually amazing. So I appreciate your perspective the way I tried to give mine to them. Thank you.
Right. Okay, enjoy yourself, and we look forward to listening to the rest of the show.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
So that's the thing, guys, right? And you hear it, the cliche, the enjoy the journey. But that's the thing, is it's not a cliche. That's exactly the point of being here. And I want to go a little bit into what Lois was saying, which is just be okay with the flow of your own life, right? But the one thing that I am a huge believer of is doing something you're passionate about. And I think that's what is making more people than not happy with their lives. And when, I'm going to go back a minute. I'm going to get back to this point, but I'm going to go back to the little breakdown that I was talking about. So I consider myself, and those of you that know me know that I have never had an issue with self-confidence. Really, I never have, okay? Thankfully, knock on wood, maybe parents did something right. Self-confidence has not been my thing, an issue for me. But what I came to recognize a few weeks ago is self-confidence is different from self-esteem. And my self-esteem was taking a hit. And my ego was taking a hit. And my trying to keep up with the Joneses was taking a hit. And what happened, and the reason I call it a meltdown, is because it was so foreign to me as someone that I consider a confident person. I literally couldn't stop crying for 3 days. I shut the blinds and I sat in a dark room by myself, literally did not get out of bed for 2 days, and just sat there in a dark room, numb. And it was an odd experience for me. And so what I want to tell you is, if you're having that experience, if you've had that experience, and you know that it sucks when you're in it, but you know that you're in it for a reason. And a friend of mine framed it really interestingly. She said to me, your success is in your mess. You need to get a little vulnerable with this stuff, because maybe you're getting vulnerable with this stuff is going to help someone else and give them permission to say, you know what, maybe I have been judging myself too harshly. I have a bunch of mom friends. My gosh, I have a lot of mom friends, and they are always beating up on themselves for not being the perfect mom. And they'll say to me, well, there's so-and-so that comes to school, and she's got 3 kids, and all the 3 kids are wearing bows, and she's dressed to the nines, and then she goes and gets her nails done. And I said to them, I guarantee you that perfect mom goes home some nights and cries by herself in the shower, because you just do. And I guess what I'm here to say is, I'm trying to give myself permission to be okay with those dips. And maybe I want to try and give you permission to be okay with those dips. And if you haven't had a dip yet, I'm not sure what planet you're living on, but if you haven't, just know that if the dip comes, it's actually okay. A good friend of mine, Paul, said something to me, and he said, Katerina, you know what your problem is? He said, 2 problems. I said, what are this problem, Paul? He said, number 1, you're being very self-centered. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, he's right? What am I doing really? I'm doing some stuff, and I'm not going to get into that, but what could I be doing more for the community, for the world, for other people and other causes? But number 2, he said to me, you're so used to being a high achiever, and a lot of you guys out there are, that he says when something doesn't go your way, he says what you need to recognize is it's not falling apart. He says you're just used to being a bullet train. He goes, think of yourself as a bullet train, right? All of us are in our lives. We're bulleting along. Everything's great. Boom, boom, boom. But he says at some point, he said to me, the bullet train has to pull into the station. It has to pull in so that it can destock the stuff that's empty, so that it can restock with the stuff that's full, so that it can get new happy people on board, so that it can let out the stuff that it's supposed to let go of. And it's going to, start to move along. And in a few, days, weeks, months, years, it's going to be barreling along again. So he said, you're not blowing up, you're not crashing, you're not failing. He said, you're simply refueling. And I thought, Jesus, that's amazing. And again, how am I failing? I got to Hollywood. Within a year, I was on the Oscar red carpet reporting live. I mean, it's crazy the amount of success if you allow yourself to touch on the good points. If you allow yourself to touch on the bad points, it's not. So I guess I just want to leave you guys with, some of those thoughts of it's okay to feel. Maybe that's the point of today's episode. It's okay to feel it. Feel the excitement, but feel the hurt. And feel the clarity and feel the frustration. Because it's out of the frustration that the clarity comes, right? I was going to go back really quickly to passion. I have known this my entire life. I've been logically, intellectually aware of it. But the more I'm trying to live it, the more I see the validity in it. The people that have been successful, and again, I'm not quantifying success as monetary only. I'm quantifying it as happy with their lives when they get to that place and they're looking death and at death's door. The people that are happy are the people that have lived life with passion, with a sense of doing something that they know they were supposed to do. So if there's a book that you've always wanted to write, but you're not writing because you think, who am I to write this book? I'm not a writer. If there's a city that you want to move to, but you think, well, how am I going to move to that city? I can't leave XYZ behind. I don't know where I'm going to go. I have no friends because I'm 55 and I can't get there. If there's something you want to do that deep inside you're supposed to do, I really implore you to try and find a way to allow parts of that into your life. And I'm not saying quit your job that you've been at for 35 years and go do something else, but I am saying try and soften, maybe back to Lois's point, soften the journey a little bit and bring in elements that are fun and are exciting and are intriguing. Because I think that's the whole point of life, right? We just put so much pressure on ourselves that we've got to worry about the bills and worry about the kids and worry about the spouse and worry about the job and worry and worry and worry. And because we're worrying, of course, again, the world that we're living in is saying, great, take this drug, take that, $9,500, $100,000 gym membership, do this, do that. I was looking through, when I was doing my preparation yesterday, and I was thinking, 5 tips. I want to tell the audience 5 tips of what to do to not be stressed. And so I pull up these lists on, Google, and we can all Google the 5 things not to do when we're stressed. But I'm not here to tell you what that list is. You can go Google it. I'm here to tell you my perspective on the list. So my perspective on the list, I'm going to read you what the list that I pulled up said. The list that I pulled up said 5 ways to reduce stress. Number 1, remind yourself that this too shall pass. Number 2, learn to self-soothe. Number 3, positive self-talk. Number 4, relax and exercise. Number 5, check your diet. And I'm looking at this list going, I think I just need to have sex. I really do. I really think that is missing off this list and that would really help minimize my stress. And I'm getting a little bit candid here, but yes, people, who's coming up with these lists? The point I'm trying to make is you have your own list of needs that you have to get met, that you have to share, that you have to get, cultivated. So listen to yourself and don't feel like you've got to go Google everything. I think it comes back to, looking at having a real heart-to-heart discussion with self and saying, what's holding me back? And what are the little changes that I need to make to move myself into a better place? And I think first and foremost, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Stop beating up on yourself. Maybe taking it all the way back to 50 minutes ago when our first caller, Casey, dialed in. Stop the self-judgment. Stop the self-talk. Stop the criticism, and just be happy with where you're at. If you're melting down, again, you can go buy a little red Corvette. I was this close to dyeing my hair flaming red because I can. But no, do what you need to do. Understand that it's, like everyone was saying, a par for the course, right? Some good, some bad. 5,000 attempts at perfecting the vacuum cleaner. And this guy didn't give up, so don't give up. Do what's in your heart. This was our episode, a little bit of a free-for-all, but talking about living life on your terms, not on the shoulds that society puts on you. Don't call it a midlife crisis. Call it a life reframe. I'm your host, Katerina Cozias, here for LA40. We'll be back next week with more things dealing with life after 40. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Take care.
You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Cozias, only on LA Talk Radio.